I'm going down to the city now, and as you know, when I'm driving down to the city, this is the time that I talk about different information, different stories about my life while I'm driving, because I like it that it's spontaneous, it's not scripted, it's not rehearsed, and also you will not be bored. You're just looking at me. You'll be looking at the site of the Philippines, so you'll be also get familiar of how it is driving here and what to expect. Not just about talking about it, we're actually looking at it. And so I always think that when I'm driving, I'm the driver and you are the passenger on my side, on my back rather, and you're listening to my stories. But the best thing is you have a duct tape in your mouth so you can't answer me when I'm trying to talk. So now let's continue on about my life in England. So as you know, it took us 3 days to process my visa. Wow, 10-wheelers meeting each other. How about me? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go on the side. I'm on my small car, you know, because it's this is not, that's what I mean, not rehearsed. You will see the difficulties of driving here on narrow roads. So that's why I beep, because before the 10-wheeler will go through. Thank you. So my difficulties in driving, you can see it. So when you're here, you're already seeing it. It took us 3 days from the time of our wedding. No, from the time that we processed, because we still have a few days honeymoon, of course. But after that, we start processing before he goes home. So he got 4 days before he goes home, and he wants to take me with him. So we start processing that 4 days before, and it took us, the whole completion was 3 days, because the first day was going to Manila, talking to people in the UK embassy to sort out the paperwork. But it took us 3 days to complete that. I got my visa, we fly at night. So 3 days processing. Over a week after our wedding, I went to England. So we arrived in the airport, and as you know, I'm so familiar with airports because I've been traveling around. So we arrived in the airport, and I asked old B, how do we get to your place? And he said by the bus. So we took the bus, but this bus in Heathrow stopped on a parking lot. So what, are you living near the airport? And he said, no, we're going in my car. So we went driving on his car. He can actually drive. Okay. Yeah. So he's driving towards his place in Somerset. And then he said, I want to stop by work. Why do you want to see your old ogre boss? Because, you know, we're supposed to be married in December, and he can't come because his bastard of a boss won't let him have the time off. I said, what do you want to see that A for? Oh, okay. No choice. Stop by your work. So we arrived on this building, like in business estate. We arrived on this big building, and he went in, and a few people come out of the building and greet us, like greeting me. Whoa. And so I said, well, your workmates are very, very friendly. And so we went in, and then there's a few salesmen, suppliers, whatever, a lot of people's trying to talk to him. That I was there sitting on the corner, but they keep on saying hi, hello to me. Oh, Mrs. So-and-so. Okay, fine. All the while, Old B is so discreet to me. He is the awkward bastard boss. So he is the boss of this company, and that's why everyone seems to be on their toes. He got a few people that he employed. He got few people there as well, doing the business. So all these people even have to make appointments to see him. And so there we are. And then he owned the building, he owned the business, and I don't know anything about it. When I was arranging the wedding, he never sent me any money. I spend most of my money sorting out the wedding costumes, wedding flower arrangement. I have the wedding of my dreams, which is the garden wedding, and I'm the judge that married us. We set it up like a church wedding with maid of honors and all that. Even though it's a judge that married us, it's a nice garden wedding, and all the flowers. I'm the one who spent it all. That's why I'm so disappointed when it didn't happen on December. What if it won't happen again on January, the next month? So now Olby didn't tell me that he actually owned a business. All the while I was thinking that he is just an employee. So then he took me to his home. He owned his house as well. And I meet his dad. What's the thing nice about Old B is he is living with his dad, because I don't believe that as a Filipino, I don't like it that because to send your parents to an old people's home. For I understand when some people do that if it's necessary, but if we can avoid that, I would rather have the parents. He had his father with us living for almost 2 years, and when Old B first come over to meet me, he told me that his dad was told that he only have 6 months to live. But I took care of him. He got a companion every day when I arrived there, and he even met our daughter, his grandchild from Old B. So he's the one my daughter was walking. He was able to see that. He was buying things for my daughter as remembrance when he passed on. But of course, he has almost 2 years instead of 6 months that the doctor has given him before. I'll just turn this off because it's so dusty here. So I arrived in Old B's house first day that I arrived in England, and that night all his siblings and most of his niece and nephews come over to see me. And so one of his sister was talking to me like this: "How are you? How do you find England? Do you find it cold?" I said to Old B, "Is your sister abnormal? Why is she talking like this?" I said, "No, she's not abnormal." So he told to his sister, "Oh, I could talk normally with you." "Yes. I could talk as fast as you can." And so from then on, because they're so used to the Asians, Filipino, that they talk so they had to speak to them slowly because they cannot understand for proper comprehension. Because although you can see some are speaking well, but it's the comprehension sometimes is the problem. I said, "No, it's no problem to me. My job is to interpret it in English language and other languages as well. So I could listen to your tenses. I could listen to your accent." So from now on, that problem has been solved. They realized I could speak to them, and I was like quiz for the first night I was there. Quiz, left, right, and center. What you like? What do you do for a living? What your the quiz, and I think I've answered them all off to shut them up. And so actually living in England was not really a shock to me. Like everyone, most of the Filipinas, there's a cultural difference, because you gotta remember, I'm only speaking for myself. I have been traveling around different countries, especially around Asia, before I even met old B before we even married. So going in a country with different culture is not a shock to me anymore. So there was no adjustment of culture to my part. I live in England. I don't mix with Filipino groups. You know, there are stories that sometimes the breakup of the marriage is caused by the influence of Filipino groups. But for myself, I'm not the group people. I might have, when I was younger, barcadas or group of friends. I still do, even in low school. But not in England. I find myself, my only friend is Old B. You know, it's enough for me. And once in a while, my sister-in-law. And that's enough for me. I mean, I'm not really the, chica, the friendly with girls, with friendly with groups. But in our area alone, I think there's only one Filipina, and she also moved out, and most of them are Thais from Thailand. And although I do meet them sometimes in the another town, another village, another town, but I don't really mix with them so much. So for me, there was no culture shock to me around in England when I was living there. I could only speak for myself, but I have even the food. I'm not the sort that look for my own food. Like, oh, I need to have Filipino food. Because living in poverty, you just eat what is there. Don't, beggars can't be choosy. I mean, that's what I'm brought up with. Eat what is there. Beggars can't be choosy. So, if the food, Filipino food is not there, as long as it's food, fine. So that's how I didn't have much of an adjustment over there. Weather-wise, of course, because it's the weather, but Old B's house, I just wear shorts and t-shirts and sleeveless in our house because it's like centralized heating all the time, and I put it up like Filipino hotness, so I could just run around in shorts. Even if you look at the window, it's double pane. I can't feel the cold. It's snowing, but inside our house it's hot, like I'm in the Philippines. So there was no adjustment in the weather so much, unless we go out. Of course, I have to double socks, have to have warmer clothes, coats, which is heavy coats, which I don't really comfortable with. So that's my life in England. And I also have my own little business there. I have import some rugs from the Belgium, and because when one time the building of Old B, one of the renters of the commercial center, had a vacancy, so Old B helped me because I'm bored, set up my business. So I was selling rugs and talking to people there. But then again, the baby come along, and although I still continue a little bit of the business with the baby, but it's just becoming hard work when they start walking, you know. And I have to sell it up, so someone else bought it and run the business. But I stay home with my daughter. So not much of a adjustment to me when I was in England. I don't find any difference of the culture, because being trained for traveling in different countries, there's nothing shocking to me anymore. And I lived there for almost 7 years, and I don't feel like I'm qualified to tell you what you're gonna expect in England, what to do this and to do that, because I don't think that's right. You know, you got people, foreigners coming over here in the Philippines 2 to 3 months, 6 months, and start advising you what to expect on the Philippines, what the culture is like. I just find it so funny, and some of the gullibles are listening to them. You know, lives has been lived in England. People's lives are different. my life living in England is different. There is not much of an adjustment to me apart from the weather, of course. And although I do live a very comfortable life, because I didn't realize that Oldby is well off. I thought he's just a mere employee, but no. We have a very comfortable life when we were in England. And we often, on his day off, if he managed himself out of the business, we go around the country. We go around London. We go around, see the sights. And also we go on holidays to America. We've been there twice, and other parts of the countries, or come here to the Philippines for a visit. I mean, we do have a very, very comfortable life. And so when the time that come that at the age of 40 he want to retire, he feels burnt out. Oldby doesn't feel special at all. He said a lot more people earn more money than him, but we have a very, very comfortable life, and he wants to enjoy the fruit of his labor while he's still young. And so he retired at the age of 40. That's when I took him here to the Philippines. Oldby doesn't feel special, like I mentioned. He said it's all down to hard work. I think he's special, but he don't. It's all down to hard work. If you work hard, you earn more. So there is nothing special about it. But I said to him, it is special because you got more sense than most. How come you succeed like that and they don't? And said, no, a lot of people earn more than me. Millions and millions of pounds. But this is just, I'm content that we are comfortable. We don't gonna have money worries at all. And I want to enjoy the fruit of my labor while I'm still young. So the next chapter will be about our life here in the Philippines after 7 years together in England.